text, audio, and video news of the globe from scientific television. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe with us. Thank you.
Now listen to the headline news. Trump signs bill ending longest shutdown. Michigan GOP leader signals Senate bid, sets up clash with Trump-endorsed Mike Rogers. COP30, Indigenous protesters defend summit incursion as climate talks roll on. Xi pitches closer ties to Spanish king as Madrid courts Chinese investment. India probes link between Delhi car blast and earlier Kashmir arrests, sources say. Russia makes gains in southern Ukraine as it expands frontline attacks. Trump's trade war is pushing Canada closer to China. China moves into Venezuela as Maduro regime gets Beijing lifeline amid U.S. tensions. Former UFC fighter, 38, found dead in Florida jail cell amid domestic violence case. Now listen to the detailed news. The federal government officially began reopening Wednesday night after President Donald Trump signed into law a spending package that narrowly passed the House, ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The House voted 222 to 209 on day 43 of the shutdown after 8 Democratic senators joined Republicans to move the measure forward. 6 Democrats in the House also voted with Republicans to pass the bill, while 2 Republicans opposed it. The package funds the government through January and includes several spending bills for agriculture, veterans, and other agencies. It restores retroactive pay for furloughed federal employees and reverses previous layoffs. President Trump, signing the bill, blamed Democrats for what he called extortion, though polls showed most Americans blamed Republicans. The measure also contained a controversial provision allowing certain Republican senators to sue the government over seized phone records from the January 6 investigation. The H-1B visa program remains a highly contentious issue in U.S. immigration and labor policy. Recently, in September 2025, the Trump administration introduced a substantial $100,000 fee on new H-1B applications. This move is part of a broader pattern of stricter measures, including a previous temporary suspension of new visas during the COVID-19 pandemic. The policy has garnered support from notable figures like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, while administration officials, such as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, have clarified that the intent is to use these visas temporarily for training purposes, with the ultimate goal of repatriating the foreign workers. Bernadette Smith, the former co-chair of the Michigan GOP, has taken the initial step of filing paperwork with the Federal Election Commission, signaling a likely run for the U.S. Senate. This sets up a potential Republican primary challenge against Mike Rogers, a former congressman who is the clear establishment favorite. Rogers has secured the coveted endorsement of former President Donald Trump, as well as the support of top Senate Republican leaders and the party's National Campaign Committee. The open Senate seat in Michigan is a top national target for Republicans aiming to expand their majority in the 2026 midterm elections. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with King Felipe VI of Spain in Beijing on Wednesday, presenting a vision of global cooperation and partnership between China and Spain. The meeting marked the first state visit by a Spanish monarch to China in 18 years and came as Madrid seeks to strengthen economic ties with Beijing amid growing U.S. pressure. President Xi expressed China's willingness to deepen a comprehensive strategic partnership with Spain, emphasizing peace, development, and global influence. Both sides agreed to promote collaboration between Chinese and Spanish firms in Latin America and other regions, taking advantage of Spain's historical ties there. Following their discussions, Xi and King Felipe witnessed the signing of 10 agreements covering areas such as food safety, language education, space cooperation, and astronomy. The visit reflects Spain's increasing engagement with China, despite tensions between Beijing and the broader European Union, EU, over trade and industrial subsidies. Indian authorities are investigating a possible link between a deadly car blast in Delhi that killed 8 people and the earlier arrest of 7 men in Kashmir. The blast, the first of its kind in the heavily guarded capital in over a decade, is being probed under anti-terrorism laws. In a separate operation, hours before the explosion, police in Jammu and Kashmir arrested 7 individuals, including 2 doctors, seizing a significant cache of weapons and bomb-making material, and alleging the group as in contact with Pakistan-based militant organizations. The Russian army has captured 3 settlements in Ukraine's southern Zaporizhia region, according to Ukraine's top military commander, Gen. Alexander Syrsky. He reported that dense fog allowed Russian troops to infiltrate Ukrainian positions, leading to grueling battles as Ukrainian forces attempt to repel the assault. The fiercest clashes remain centered in Pokrovsk, a besieged city in the eastern Donetsk region, where nearly half of all frontline fighting occurred within 24 hours. Other regions, including Kupiansk and Lyman in northeastern Kharkiv, have also witnessed heavy combat. Meanwhile, Russia continues to occupy about 1/5 of Ukrainian territory, nearly 4 years after launching its full-scale invasion. The United States has announced new sanctions targeting Russia's oil sector to take effect on November 21, aimed at pressuring President Vladimir Putin into a ceasefire. Inside Ukraine, however, a corruption scandal involving top officials, including the suspension of Justice Minister Herman Halushenko, has added political strain to Kiev's war effort. In a remarkable diplomatic turn, Canada and China appear to be rebuilding ties after years of hostility. The 2 nations' relationship deteriorated sharply in 2018 when Canada arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou on U.S. fraud charges, leading China to detain 2 Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, on espionage accusations. The tensions lasted nearly 3 years, poisoning bilateral relations. Recently, however, the situation has shifted. Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand met her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing, followed by a landmark meeting between Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Xi Jinping during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) summit in South Korea, the first such encounter in 8 years. Both leaders pledged to restore trust and strengthen cooperation in trade and tourism, with China reinstating Canada to its approved travel list. These developments mark a cautious but visible thaw in the once frozen Canada-China relationship. President Donald Trump has declared a zero-tolerance stance toward narco-states in the Western Hemisphere as tensions rise between the United States, Venezuela, and China. The U.S. deployed the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group to the Caribbean to monitor alleged narco-trafficking routes tied to Venezuela's military. The Pentagon stated that the mission's goal is to disrupt transnational criminal organizations and strengthen U.S. defense readiness in the region. Meanwhile, China has deepened its involvement in Venezuela, unveiling a new zero-tariff trade agreement at the Shanghai Expo 2025, eliminating tariffs on roughly 400 goods traded between the 2 nations. The deal, announced by Venezuelan officials, is seen as part of Beijing's growing influence in the Latin American nation. Experts warn that the agreement will increase Venezuela's economic dependence on China while reducing its industrial capacity, as Venezuela continues to rely heavily on oil exports for revenue. Former UFC fighter Godofredo Pepe, aged 38, was found dead in his jail cell in Florida on Saturday night from an apparent suicide, according to police report. He was discovered unresponsive just before 8 p.m. by a detention deputy during a routine check at the Broward County Jail. Authorities stated that no foul play was suspected, and the case is being investigated as an apparent suicide. His official cause of death will be determined by the medical examiner's report. Pepe, whose real name was Godofredo Castro de Oliveira, had been in custody since June in connection with a domestic violence case and was being held without bond.